All right, hello. Welcome to the Injury 10 module. It's really great to have you here. This is there's so much information, so much value in this module. So in this module, we break down injury into two different categories. So we talk to people who have had physical injuries, surgeries, recovery, and then we talk to wellness professionals to get a different perspective of treatment, recovery, and what that looks like. So we talk to Lisa, who broke her ankle and her knee. And we learn about the injury itself. We learn about the recovery time. We learn about the recovery recommendations. And then we learn about, once she's actually been able to start doing things again, things that she can do in yoga, things that she can't do in yoga, and things to be aware of. So the benefit of this module, the benefit of this training is that if a student comes to your class and they say, I've had knee surgery, I've had ankle surgery, I've had shoulder surgery, hip surgery, spine surgery, you have a deeper understanding of what they've been through, possibly what their recovery process is like, and you'll be able to support them in modifying postures for those parts of their body. So this is not meant to be a yoga therapy training. I want to be really clear with that. This is not to become a yoga therapist, but this is to be a well-educated, well-informed yoga teacher, so that when these students come in, because I can guarantee if you have a room of 10 people, my guess would be 6 or 7 of them have had some kind of injury. So you really want to know how to modify your classes. You want to know how to modify your postures. And if you're working one-on-one with someone, it can be really good to have this foundation as well. So then we talked to Alana, and Alana has had 2 spinal surgeries. And with the heavy focus of spinal health in yoga practice, this is really fascinating. And the interesting thing about Lisa, Alana, and Gamzee is that they are all they're all yoga teachers, and they have taken hundreds of hours of training in yoga. So they're really able to speak to their recovery, how yoga supported their recovery, things that they needed to do in their body. They have the language, they have the terminology, and they know how to describe what has happened in their body through their healing process. So really, really great conversations, and really fascinating to learn how these different surgeries happen, how long they take, kind of what the hardware is that you receive afterwards. So then we do shift into the conversation with Gamzee, and she had a hip replacement. And that's a really interesting conversation as well, learning about the hip. The hips are such an important piece of our yoga practice, doing hip openers. Because we spend so much time seated, hip openers are really important because our hips can get stiff and closed, and that can result in low back pain and all kinds of other issues and problems in the body. We then talked to Dr. Doug Funk, and he had shoulder, rotator cuff, and clavicle surgery. So in the trainings that I have taken, the shoulders it's like a no-no. Like if someone has a shoulder injury, until they're fully recovered, there is no modifications for that injury. So that's something to be really wary of, really careful of. And then we talked to Lynn Enticknap, and she had a hip and knee replacement. And she is 65. So young, vibrant, energetic, active her entire life. So it's a really interesting conversation about how the hip and knee, the difference between the 2 surgeries, the recovery, the difference of the recovery. So really interesting conversations, and we learn a lot more about the ankle, the knee, the spine, the hip, the shoulder, and then a combination of those different body components, body pieces, body parts. We then shift to the wellness practitioners. Now, the reason behind having these conversations with these wellness practitioners is so that if someone comes in to our class and they say, this is my injury, this is what I'm experiencing, we have an idea as to who to send them to for support, because we aren't yoga therapists and we are not medical professionals, we're yoga teachers. So the more we can learn about other wellness modalities, the more we can support our students in their health and their wellness. And I am a full believer and component and supporter of creating and doing all the things we can for our wellness, focusing on our wellness rather than our illness or our disease. So these are really great conversations. So first we have a conversation with Lisa, who, yes, we had the conversation about her broken ankle and knee, but she is a yoga therapist. She talks about Reiki, energy healing, and she talks about healing of with oils and somatic movement healing. So that's a really interesting conversation. Then we talked to Dr. Tim Dolan, and he's a chiropractor. He's been in the business for almost 40 years. So he has a lot of great knowledge. He shares and talks to us about spinal health, about misalignment that can happen in the bones and the body, about treatment. Really interesting conversation. Then we talked to Gamzee, who we had the conversation about her hip replacement, and she is a compound pharmacist. So we get a deeper understanding of what compound pharmacists do and how there are more natural remedies than one might think. So for example, she shares with us about a topical pain reliever. And when something is topical, it goes on the skin and it doesn't get filtered through the liver and the digestive system, which can help to alleviate damage to those internal organs. So really interesting stuff. And what's interesting to me too, as a yoga teacher and as an athlete, like ultimately we are occupational athletes, and it's really important that we take care of our own body. And that's another reason why this wellness component, these understanding and gaining a deeper understanding of these wellness professionals, so that we know what to do for ourselves if we're experiencing something in our own body as well. So Gamzee's conversation about compound pharmacists is really interesting. Then we talked to Julie, and she's a holistic nutritionist. So she's a nurse practitioner, but then she went back to school for functional medicine and became a functional medicine nutritionist. And this conversation is packed with information. So I recommend all of these conversations. Take notes, take your top 5 takeaways from these conversations. Every single conversation has so much wisdom, so much knowledge that you're going to want to remember and take note of. So ton of information with Julie. And then we talk with Dharma, and she talks to us about myofascial release. And she comes from a massage therapist background, but she's now specializing in myofascial release, and she's really excited and energetic about what she's doing with people and understanding more about the fascia. And something that she shares is that heat and compression are the 2 things that help to heal and release fascia. So that's different than the muscle. So if you think about massage therapy and really kneading into the belly of the muscle, that is different than what you're going to do to help release your fascia. And often in the body, like I get really tight shoulders, tightness in my neck, and that actually is fascial tension more so than muscle tension. And so heat and compression are the 2 things that are really helpful for that. But there's so much more amazing information in that. Along with these conversations, there's also a great PDF in the resources section that talks about injury and different forms of athletic injury. So I highly recommend that you read through that as well. Know that you can print it off, add it to your module. The module is also in the PDF in the resources section. But take your notes, take everything you can from these conversations, and look at everything through the lens of yoga. So everything that they're sharing, it's like, how can I apply this to my students? How can I apply this to my teaching? How can I serve, support my students through having this knowledge, and myself? How can I support my own health, my own wellness, my own longevity through having this knowledge and this information? I hope that you enjoy these conversations. I will see you again on the other side in the closing.